All right. So, Michael, quick thoughts on, okay, paint the context, right? So you've got a client that comes to you and they say, let's say they haven't really done Google ads for very long, or they've been doing it in house and they didn't really know what they were doing. And they come to you and say, we want this new campaign or these campaigns to be launched. Or maybe we're going to be targeting new keywords, we're going to be targeting a different audience, whatever it is. This is regardless of channel. Like they just want to come to you and we want to promote something new or we want to promote the same thing to a new demographic. Okay. But the question becomes, what kind of expectations for results should we have, Michael? Like, what should we expect out of this? I know we haven't done this before, but could you kind of give us like a rough idea of what we're going to get from this new thing we're trying? How do you usually like to approach that?
Yeah, excellent. This is actually a really good question because it's it's not an either or question, but it's an and question. So I would always say that look, we can't predict the future. Like
Mm-hmm.
if we and I'll say this to new business and existing clients who want to do this, and I go,
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this long enough where I can say this confidently that I don't know. If I did know, I'd be charging you 50 times more because you'd
Right.
be like ahead. But then what we can do is we can literally set up a beta or a pilot test for this. And within a few days or a few weeks, we could get the benchmark data around cost per click, CTRs, or if it's Facebook, CPMs,
Yeah.
conversion rates. And from there, even that amount of small data or a small bit of time would give us a lot of predictions as well. Now, I've said that to an enterprise client that we've got, and it still wasn't good enough for them. So we just got like really some generic benchmark data, and we're like, look, and we just put into a Google sheet, like, look, for companies like yours in this industry, the CTR on Facebook or Google would be this much. The cost per click that we're finding in the Google keyword planners around this much, range from this to this, and then the conversion rate based on your current landing page is most likely around 1% to 2%. So this times this equals this cost per lead. Now, I don't know your lead to sale rate or whatever the other numbers are. I'm talking about lead generation now. E-commerce would be a bit different, but much the same. I go, but based on that, that's what the numbers look like. But presenting the numbers at different stages of the funnel, being at cost per clicks or CTRs for Meta, CPMs for Meta, what their budget is, potential impression share, and conversion rates. If you just show that on a linear line on the spreadsheet, that's more than enough. So I always start with can't predict the future, kind of setting that as a preface. But I'm like, if you really do want to know, here's some loose benchmarks based on our experience, cost per click data, and the expected conversion rate.
Yeah.
And that would give you, and then if you do this budget times that, like it really is as simple as that. And most of the times, even when the bigger the business, that's more than enough for them because they just need some sort of guidance. And if you present it in a spreadsheet that's very simple and logical, they don't argue. They not argue. They don't push back going, yeah, but what about this? Because it's like, guys, I told you I can't predict the future. These are the best predictive numbers for it. This is the simple approach. And they're usually doing it to either justify it to themselves or their higher ups.
Yeah.
And it always works and goes through. And then ultimately we do the work. And for some reason, our numbers are always better in terms of the results. But I always, and this is the really important thing, always go with the conservative results, either a higher
Yes.
cost per click and a conversion rate. Do not be a damn fool and do lower cost per clicks and higher conversion rates. So many people do that to get the sale.
Yeah.
The thing is, you'll get the sale even with the the conservative numbers. I'll tell you this: you will get that sale, you'll get the client. But the issue is, if you set the expectation for lower cost per clicks, higher conversion rates, that's what they're expecting. And any moment, which is going to be 99% of the time, you're not achieving that, they're going to be stressed. Or you do achieve it instantaneously, and they're like, "How do we make it better?" And you're like, "Well, I can't. I've said it's going to be a 20% conversion rate. That's psycho." I had my old CEO say, for like an emergency locksmith, it's like, yeah, it'll be like a 50% conversion rate. I'm like, bro. He's like, and you're doing that. I'm like, I'm not, I literally said to him, I'm not running this. You'll run this. I said this to a CEO of a huge company. I'm like, dude, you're running it. I'm like, I don't know where you're getting that 50% from. Like, you do that. So anyway, that's my rant on that. I get passionate about this because it's like, it can really, really stump you in the medium to long term when you're just trying to get a client across the line for this type of thing. What are your thoughts, Cory, mate?
I agree with everything you said. I look at it. There's two groups here. There's one where you have, when you're approached with this, there's two schools of thought. One, you're going to have a situation where you have similar elements to create simulations, right? So you have similar products, similar services. In other words, you have kind of loose related benchmarks that you can create
Yeah.
simulations, because any simulation, no matter who you're working with, that is doing the simulation, they're going to need inputs. And those inputs are going to be, like Michael said, the conversion rates, the CPCs, whatever. That way we can extrapolate potential results in the short and long
Yeah.
term. It's still going to have to be kind of a educated guess, because no one can predict the future. And if they can, give me their phone number so I can start investing and all those things. But the other element, the other part of this could be you have no similar elements, right? It's a brand new product. It's kind of a long shot. You understand that it's a very niche product, and the rest of your catalog of services or products are one kind of thing, and this is totally different. Okay. That is much different. In that case, you have to have much less conservative expectations. You can't be, this needs to work right away, and this has to be a very confident prediction. You're asking for something that can't be given. There is now no inputs, no reliable inputs to put into a simulation. Therefore, there's nothing for it to output. The best you can do is say, well, if I have a client, like if you're an agency, I have a client similar to you guys. I can't give you their data, of course, like I'm not going to do that, but I can use what I know to be benchmarks around a similar product or service and plug that into the simulation and do that. But let's say you're doing this yourself. Well, what do you do? Well, some ways you can kind of guesstimate. You can use keyword tools called Keyword Planner, SEMrush, things like that. You can kind of get like rough ideas on cost per click, stuff like that. But even then, it's going to be a really loose guesstimate. It's going to be just an educated guess. In other words, you got to go into it with the expectation that this could be way off. And so you have to be careful. I know we're turning time. You have to be careful when you're going to do this, because sometimes when you're making these educated guesses, it's going to be very misleading and therefore not actually helpful. It actually hurts you more than it helps you. You're asking for confidence in something that's unknown and to predict the future, but sometimes you're going to take that and go, okay, I know that Michael's saying, who knows, we don't really have any data to input into these simulations, but he still thinks we could probably pull off 2% conversion rate. You might just totally ignore all this stuff.
Everything else.
It's going to be a 2% conversion rate. Yeah, you're just assuming the best case scenario. So to Michael's point, make sure you're setting conservative levels here. If you think it's going to be 2%,
and you've got to keep reinforcing that, hey, this is just an estimate. Like, you've got to say that multiple times, because if you say it once, you've said it 0 times. If you say it twice, you've said it 0 times. If you say it 10 times, you've said it once. You've got to really hammer it in, because people hear what they want to hear.
Yes.
And if you go, oh, the conversion rate could be anywhere between 2 to 20%, they just go, oh, it could be up to 20%. Sweet, 20%. That's awesome. Then they start predicting their millionaire lifestyle with like their jets and yachts because of a 20% conversion rate.
Right.
So very important. Mate, that was actually a really good one to finish up on, because I think that's a real problem that does come up quite consistently, either with a new business and or a client that has a new product line or line of business that they do want a level of confidence, because if they're going to be putting money, time, and effort into this, usually they want to know that the marketing or the advertising can support it. Because if the marketing and advertising doesn't work, the product creation or the service creation is useless. Because why would you do R&D or creation of a product or service that no one's proactively looking for, or it doesn't make economic sense?
Absolutely. All right.